All right, fellas, we've got three teams here to wrap up the Central, and we'll go to the St. Louis Blues next. 46 points on the year. They're 4-5-1 in their last 10 as well, along with Arizona. So, yeah, what do we have to say about the Blues? Obviously, they made the big coaching change a little while ago. Craig Berube out after winning the Stanley Cup with the Blues in 2019. Drew Bannister has been the guy for a little while now. What do we have to say about the Blues? We know they're retooling. They had 3 first-round picks in 2023. What do we got on the Blues?
This team started out terribly. They've kind of slowly started to turn things around, kind of the opposite situation as the Arizona Coyotes. But the real problem here has been team defense. They have allowed a ton of chances. They're actually smack in the middle of Chicago, San Jose, Buffalo, and Columbus when it comes to chances allowed. And those are both high and medium danger as well. And then on top of that, they've been struggling to put together scoring at times. There's been some times where, the top dogs are really killing it in Thomas and Kyrou. Buchnevich has continued to be just this strangely productive goal scorer in the NHL. Mm-hmm. But they can't really put it together in multiple games in a row, and that's really been the struggle for this team. I still wouldn't be surprised to see them, like you said, Chad, overtake a Nashville by the end of the year, or be battling with Arizona in meaningful games, trying to get that last wildcard spot. But it wasn't there at the beginning of the year. The coaching change has given this team a bit of that coaching bump, as you guys mentioned last week. But they've got to put together the goal or the scoring, as well as stopping the chances.
Yeah, and that's gonna come, right? Because they've got guys in the pipeline. Like, this isn't going to be the team that, I guess like the big names like Thomas and Kyrou, like those guys will be here. Maybe even Kevin Hayes, will be here when this team is eventually good. But they're in a bit of a retool, and this is kind of where we expected them to be. Picked them to finish in the 7th spot, currently sitting in the 6th spot, one up on Minnesota. Are they a playoff bubble team? Maybe. Does it help them if they make the playoffs? Maybe for morale. You can make that argument. But at the end of the day, this team wasn't expected to be that good, and they're going to get a decent pick at the end of the year, and they're going to turn this thing around relatively quick. I think so. They're kind of following, and we've talked about this before, they're kind of following the Dallas Stars model.
That's
where,
right.
You've got a good mix of old and young, and you try to make it work in a short period of time. So I have no problem with where St. Louis is in the standings right now, and it is pretty much where we thought they were going to be. I will still say though, and this was a point in when we talked about the Central in the preseason, I said I would take Arizona at every position over St. Louis. I think I still would, if I'm being honest.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. And Case, you mentioned it, man. Like, they don't defend well enough. Well, again, like, Chad, I think you mentioned this before the season started. Looking at this back end, it's old, expensive, and just not very good. It's a lot of money for guys like Krug, Parayko, Falk, Scandella, who's been banged up, Nick Leddy as well. And this team just hasn't been the same since Alex Petrangelo's departure to the Vegas Golden Knights. I think that's the biggest thing with this group.
The one thing I will say, I'll agree that, the defense has been a main cause of those chances allowed. But the one thing I will say is that if this team somehow made the playoffs, your tune would change on this decor.
That is very true, and I won't dispute that.
I mean, how many Nick Leddy 200 playoff games or something like that?
That's true. Yeah, a lot of experience back there.
Yeah.
But you have to get there first. And it's not just the experience, Harp, it's how they play too. They're big and mean. They might be slow, but they're big and mean. And in the playoffs, the game slows down, and we see that every single year. It's a tale of two seasons.
Yeah, when Zach Bogosian becomes one of the best playoff defensemen, it's because he plays like a Marco Scandella and a Parayko and Leddy, Falk, all these guys. They all play the same way.
That's true.
It's a good point, Case. I'm glad you brought that up.
It is an excellent point, especially a guy like Parayko. Like, that guy is just a monster. That's a really good point for sure. All right, fellas, 7 and 8 now. The Minnesota Wild, who we were super, super wrong about. We thought this team would be in third. Yes, given the fact that they are in cap jail a little bit here with the dead money from the Suter and Parise buyouts.
Say how much. It's ridiculous. Say how much.
No, we've said it.
It's almost $14 million.
There we go.
That's too much.
We're beating a dead horse here.
What are you doing?
With the dead cap on this team? But look, I think we thought, and I think a lot of people thought, that they would still be competitive and still be better than this. And look, it's been a tough year on and off the ice for this team. And, you know, you have the investigation with Bill Guerin and that, and, you know, for verbal abuse or whatever it was. And there were no legitimate findings there. But, you know, that's obviously going to disrupt things. Dean Evison is let go. You know, and just the Kirill Kaprizov being injured and not quite being the same player this year, the spotty goaltending, all those things. So yeah, Minnesota is it's been a tough season for the Wild, and they are kind of free falling out of the race here. I know that Guerin is not ready to wave the white flag when it comes to not making the playoffs, but we're getting pretty close, or we may already be there with this team, right, guys? Like, what do we have to say about the Wild?
Well, I think that the goaltending has been probably the biggest problem, if I had to pick one, because, like, I mean, Fleury has not been great. Gus has not been great. And Wallstedt, they took a shot at him, and he proved to not be ready yet. But I think what's really wrong with this team is that they have not put it all together at once yet this season. They started out really poor. I'm getting deja vu here. The coaching change helped once again with this team, but it was a little too late. Like, they are getting scoring from the guys we expected, and Kaprizov and Boldy and Zuccarello continuing to do just ungodly things at his age. And we've kind of got our answer. We were saying they need to figure out who's the 1C. Is it Marco Rossi? Well, he has been that as of late. So that's been, great to see. They've actually been pretty good defensively. They've allowed the 6th least expected goals against in the league. They just haven't put it all together yet. They haven't had it all happen at the same time. And that's what's really killing this team.
Yeah, and if you're not allowing a ton of high quality chances, you expect one of your 2 goalies in your tandem situation to step up and kind of take advantage of that, and that just hasn't happened. There's talks that Fleury could be out the door at the trade deadline, which I think they should do, because his value, is only going to continue to go down, it has over the last few years. So if there's a deal out there, I would say take it. By the way, the number's 14.7 over of dead money, which is just disgusting. I don't know how they ever expected to be competitive with a salary cap like that. But like you said, Harp, we're beating a dead horse here.
We are.
If they're defending well, then they need to score more. But like you said, Case, they haven't been able to do both at the same time, and that's been hurting them.
Just looking it up quickly, Chad, no movement clause on Marc-Andre Fleury, so it's going to be totally up to him to waive that. That. And we know he's been a little hesitant in the past about where he goes.
But you're at the very tail end of your career, just like Jonathan Quick. If you get one more chance to win a Stanley Cup, you take it. And I think that's what Fleury would consider. I obviously, I have no idea about what the player's thinking, but if I were him in that situation, that's what I would do. No movement clauses exist so that you can't get traded against your will, but I think Fleury actually would want to go. I think most people would.
Just not to Chicago. Or what team was it that he said absolutely not?
I forget. I mean, he did play in Chicago, so it wasn't them, but it was maybe another team. I'm not sure.
Well, and we know that things did not end well with him in Vegas either. I mean, that wouldn't even be an option, but
No,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't even be a team who needs them. But like LA, like they could use a goalie, maybe. Like
Colorado, like we mentioned.
Colorado, yeah.
It was Edmonton that he refused to go to
Oh, okay.
Really?
from Chicago.
Oh, did not
Interesting.
know that. Or I might have known that and forgot it. But point is, this team's done. They're so far out of the picture already. Like we're talking about selling for a reason here. Like,
Yeah.
like count your losses, come back better next season. Hopefully your young guys are even a bit better. Like a guy who we haven't really talked about is Brock Faber.
Oh, unreal.
He's been so good.
He has
year.
been. Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe just count your losses this season and come back better next year. And I hope you have better goaltending and things can click in unison,
Yeah, exactly. Faber impressed us when he came in the playoffs last year and thought like, okay, he'll be a very good top 4 defenseman for a long time for this team. Well, now he's looking like an elite defenseman for this team who plays a ton of minutes at such a young age. I can't believe it. And Jared Spurgeon has been banged up and hasn't had a great year. And so even more of the responsibility has been on Faber. It's been really impressive. But the back end overall, it's not good enough. They add Bogosian, which helps a little bit depth-wise, but they, it didn't work out with Addison, and they've got guys like Merrill and Middleton, who's not having a great year. And yeah, so it just, there's just a lack of depth there. And obviously the dead cap money is a big factor in that.
Oh, the dead cap is killing them. But
yeah,
I still like this decor if Spurgeon's healthy.
I do too.
You slot him in. Dakota Maramis has actually been not bad considering
that's true.
He came out of the AHL last year, but Jacob Middleton is a strong defensive defenseman who's decided to start putting the puck in the net. I think he's at 7 goals now, which is a shock there. But Jonas Brodin, we've everyone talks about him. He's like that guy that's so underrated that he's overrated at this point. So I don't know. I think it's Spurgeon is healthy. This team still has a good decor, and we're seeing that in the expected goals against being so low.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The expected goals against at 5-on-5 are really low. Like they're number 6 in the league. In all situations, though, they're about middle of the pack. So that tells me that their penalty kill is getting caved in. So I wonder if that's more of a personnel problem up front. They don't have maybe enough defensive forwards. It'd be something to look into, but that's just what some of the numbers are telling me right now. All of that being said, everyone's blue line, every team's blue line can get better. Like no blue line is perfect. So imagine they had $14.7 million to sign Matt Dumba. That would make their defense better.
Yes. Definitely. I think he clearly is a big loss on that blue line. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Good points there about the blue line. Didn't realize that there were better numbers there than I thought, and that a guy like Middleton is starting to put the puck in the net a little bit, but certainly when you have injuries, it gets pretty thin back there. But yeah, Brock Faber's been impressive. He could certainly win the Calder Trophy this year as well.
Wide open now.
Yeah, definitely.